So today we're looking at a concept called eudaimonia and the pursuit of it. It's a concept that's been around in philosophy for years, thousands of years, most likely. You've probably heard of the word happiness thrown around a lot in general life, really. I want to be happy, you should pursue happiness. But eudaimonia, the word itself, although it's similar, it's different. It's actually a Greek term and it goes beyond the mere fleeting moments of pleasure. It's about living the good life, true well-being, and actually human flourishing on the whole. So, what does it mean to have a good life? And how can we, in the modern world, apply this ancient wisdom? Trying to translate eudaimonia as just happiness doesn't quite capture the depth of the word. We've talked about human flourishing and a state of living in a way that fulfills your potential as a human being. Literally, the term means having a good guardian spirit, which for me suggests that the idea that we each have an inherent nature or a purpose and living in harmony with that nature leads to that flourishing. So at its core, then, it's more than just pleasure or success. It's about aligning your life with virtue and purpose. Eudaimonia should be the highest goal in life, an objective state rather than a fleeting emotional feeling. It's deemed to be a pretty comprehensive concept, encapsulating a life well lived, characterized by the practice of virtues like wisdom, courage, justice, to name but a few, and actually finding meaning in fulfillment in your daily actions. The word comes from Aristotle, obviously one of the great philosophers. In his work, the Nicomachean Ethics, also one of his most famous works, he suggested that it wasn't about accumulating wealth, fame, power. It was about rational activity that aligned with virtue. These virtues may be honesty, kindness, wisdom, and doing so or retaining these values over the consistency of a total lifetime. Aristotle believed that it requires more than just the occasional good action to achieve eudaimonia, but it's more about a continuous effort to embody these virtuous behaviors. He made an argument that the complete life, rather, is one lived in the pursuit of virtue, and that is what leads to flourishing. It's more than one moment of happiness, but the steady development of character, the ability to navigate life's challenges wisely, and ultimately the joy that comes from living authentically. Socrates and Plato also touched on a similar idea. Obviously, they're from the sort of same era, if you like. Um, Socrates believed that knowledge of good and evil was essential to living a good life, while Plato argued that a rational soul governs our actions and desires, guiding us towards eudaimonia. In a slight contrast, then, Epicurus, the Greek philosopher often associated with Epicureanism, which is a kind of form of hedonism, I suppose, believed that eudaimonia was closely tied to pleasure, though not in a superficial sense of indulgence. Epicurus basically says that true pleasure comes from living simply and cultivating inner peace, avoiding unnecessary pain and anxiety. So this approach is often seen as the precursor to modern concepts of mindfulness and contentment. So how do we achieve eudaimonia in today's world? How can we lead lives that genuinely align with our values and contribute to flourishing, not just for ourselves, but for others too? So living with virtue, obviously, as well. That's one way. And this is practicing honesty in your relationships, showing kindness to those around you, and approaching challenges with courage and resilience. The key is then that these virtues become habitual. Aristotle emphasized that a virtuous life requires not just understanding what is right, but practicing it over time until it becomes second nature. You'll know these things in your job, won't you? You when you first went in, you had to think about which spreadsheet to go to open, which contact to email. Now it's like water off a duck's back. That's what Aristotle believes we should behave like with virtue. Maybe at the start we have to consciously work towards this virtue, but after time that should be natural for us. The next part of a how to practically generate eudaimonia is through phronesis, which is practical wisdom. Again, an Aristotle concept. It means the ability to make good decisions while balancing all the variables in a situation and acting in a way that contributes to the well-being of all involved. In modern life, this means using discernment, I suppose, in your choices, whether it's career, relationships, or even just minor day-to-day decisions. It's about knowing the right things to do, even when the situation is either complex or unclear. Maybe another way is through self-reflection and personal growth. It's about continuous self-reflection, isn't it? To understand where you are in this character building phase. To live in alignment with your true purpose, you need to regularly check in with yourself. Are you living authentically to what you really want? Are you growing? Are you evolving? Are you contributing to the well-being of others? It's easy for us to get caught up in the busyness of life and forget to ask these questions, but true flourishing comes from living with intention and always striving for this improvement. The pursuit of eudaimonia isn't just a solitary journey, though. Aristotle believed that human beings are social creatures, and even if you're an introvert, you still need social activity. And part of this flourishing involves cultivating meaningful relationships with others, not just acquaintances, but friends, and also with people who support and challenge you. It's vital. And Aristotle argued that the best friendships are those based on shared virtue. So invest in people who inspire you to grow as a person. So let's look at some potentially real life examples. What about a successful entrepreneur who built their company from the ground up? On the surface, they have wealth and influence, but they don't stop there, do they? They focus on creating value for their customers, developing their team, improving themselves through continuous learning. This entrepreneur may practice virtues like integrity and wisdom and leadership, and they find fulfillment in creating something that lasts beyond themselves. What about mindfulness and well-being? Mindfulness encourages us to be present in the moment, aware of our thoughts, our actions, our decisions, and that's what will bring us peace. Avoid distractions and those desires that lead us away from our true purpose. We all have distractions of some sort, and it's about getting rid of those. Maybe it's about having a healthy work-life balance. When we are working hard in our career, we can sometimes take away from time we should spend with family, friends, and develop ourselves through personal growth. By creating space and time for these things that truly matter, it will contribute to our overall well-being. Success in one area isn't enough for flourishing. We need to flourish in all areas of life. Maybe it's a doctor or nurse who excels not only in technical skills but brings empathy and care into their practice. Maybe the professional finds meaning in helping others, not just in curing them, but making them feel seen and understood. So their career then is rooted in virtue and service, and that is eudaimonia. What about a committed parent then, who's devoting time, effort into raising their children? They don't see their role as simply providing food, shelter, education. They see it beyond that. They find immense purpose in their daily actions and invest time into nurturing the next generation, selflessly in a lot of cases. So there are some challenges though. It's not easy to live a life of eudaimonia. Many distractions are pulling us away from what truly matters. It's tempting to chase temporary pleasures or material success, and they don't necessarily contribute to long-term flourishing. There's a difference, really, again, within the mind, and this is something you can see from a science perspective. Serotonin and dopamine are very different. Dopamine is your drinking, smoking cigarettes, whatever, the short-term hit. Serotonin is a long-term joy, and that's what we want to try and generate through eudaimonia. So create a life that's worth living. It's not about the fleeting moments of happiness or external achievements. Instead, it's about living aligned with virtue, wisdom, and purpose, building good relationships, practicing self-reflection, and pursuing things that you're interested in. So, in order to live the happy, the good life, as it's called, and human flourishing, and having a good guardian spirit, these are the things we need to look at in order to generate eudaimonia.